Alright. We got our one thing. I think I already said last week what it is, or what it really should be. So if I open it up with something else, I guess it'll be what it is. Hey, it's Otaku Elf. A show I started watching. It didn't quite hold on to me. I wasn't quite sure what it was doing with the premise that would make me say, oh yes, I definitely want to watch this. A very personal opinion in that regard. I don't know what else to say about the show, but let's open it up first because I thought I felt a loose disc. Yes, I did. I'll just put that back in place like that so that we can take a look at the art, because that's pretty much all we can really do with it, other than, you know, double check Japanese with English subtitles only, Region A, 12 episodes, clean opening, clean ending. You know, pretty straightforward release, but I'm glad stuff's still coming out on physical media. But yeah, this is all I have for this week. Alright, now to try to go through the list of everything I watched. Feels like a bit of a blur, but let's see. First we have Unnamed Memory, Episode 3. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so this is the third episode, so I have to try to judge it based on everything that has happened, and I don't know. I'm having trouble thinking. It doesn't feel bad. Maybe it doesn't feel like it 100% appeals to me per se, but it doesn't not appeal to me. It's more like it's on the good side. But let's see. If the previous episode had a little bit of action, this one had a little bit of, I guess, maybe some slight world building, maybe some slight romantic ideas. A scene that was pretty powerful, I would say. But yeah, I guess it kind of means, you know, it's an okay series. Maybe it's not something that'll catch the world by storm. Not surprised those series are going to be like that, of course. Konosuba, Season 3, Episode 3. Oh yeah, and here we have it, Episode 3, and let's see. I'm not sure if I'm gut-bustingly laughing about it, but I do feel like it feels a lot better than the previous couple of chunks of Konosuba. And I think last week I was a little irritated by the princess, and this week she was a lot more enjoyable, respectable. I'm trying to remember how it ended, what it ended with. I think there was a bit of something, but you know, it was entertaining enough. I guess it's nice to have an official season airing. Mysterious Disappearances, Episode 3. I think it was neat, the stuff that happened. This is an Episode 3, so this should be a, okay, how do I feel this series did with its 3-episode mark? I thought it was intriguing. I do want to see more. It's playful enough with its ideas that it's neat. Personally, I think I like it more than Unnamed Memory if I'm comparing it to another thing that's in Episode 3 right now. I'm not quite sure if it feels like the strongest mystery out there per se, but I find it to be very refreshing, and I was just trying to think if I think they did do a couple of things, because our main girl is I guess she's well endowed. You know, she's definitely designed to be a little more curvy, maybe not necessarily like grotesquely overweight or anything like that, but I think there was a couple of scenes, one or two scenes in this episode, which definitely had a little teasing in that regard, and I'm not sure why that suddenly jumped out at me. I feel like there were, probably it's because I've been, you know, watching bits and pieces of How Not to Summon a Demon Lord, and that one likes to go crazy with the bounces. So maybe it's a little burnt into my brain or something. Archdemon's Dilemma, Episode 5. I really like what it's doing. Like I said, Episode 4 was nice because it kind of established that it's not kind of sitting on its laurels, so to speak. It is definitely an evolving narrative, but the characters and their interactions and their growths are nice. Now, what happened at the end of that episode? I'm trying to remember, but I just remember being pleased with the way it's going. A Salad Bowl of Eccentrics, episode 4. Let me see. There was, I guess, stuff. It's entertaining enough. Was there anything about this episode that jumped out as spectacular? I'm not sure. I'm not so sure about that. But, you know, it's kind of a neat mix of stuff. Delicious in Dungeons, episode 17. Ooh. Oh, yeah. That was pretty cool. I think that I'm quoting one of the characters a bit saying that. It's like, yeah. I'm quite surprised at where the episode was going near the end of it, because I kind of wondered something else. But it is continuing to move forward in interesting and intriguing ways. Neat episode. Definitely. Oh, Jesus. Sorry. Yeah, I'm doing this pretty exhausted. That time I got reincarnated as a slime, season 3, episode 52. You know, I would say this is some good reincarnated as a slime goodness. I'm trying to remember, because like they had established some stuff in the previous episode. This one, yeah, they're setting up people doing stuff. What all are they setting up to do? But I do feel like it's more in motion, doing what the show, kind of in its normal state stuff. Very nice. Oh yes, some of that stuff, some more village building sort of stuff, on top of all the other stuff it's doing. But nice. The regular at Magic High, season 3, episode 4. So last week I had done a lot of catch-up binging to finish. Rewatching season 2, watching the prequel movie, and then watching the 3 episodes that it aired. And I said the 3 episodes for season 3 had felt a little distracted. Episode 4 felt like, okay, yeah, this is starting to feel a lot more like the regular at Magic High. You know, maybe not quite perfect. There's still that possibility that, you know, season 1 is probably just a good, fine standalone season. But in terms of a lot of the stuff it's done on the side, I felt like season 3, episode 4 felt less distracted in certain ways. Like it was just doing the stuff that's good about it once again. Studio apartment, good lighting, angel included, episode 5. It was an okay, cute episode, I think. Maybe not necessarily strongly exploring some of the stuff about the show that make it really unique, but some of the stuff that I think you kind of need to do if you're going to have a rom-com that's definitely trying to be somewhat serious on the rom side. And again, it was definitely okay. I think people who are fan of the genre would definitely be really into it. People who aren't used to a lot of the tropes of the genre are probably, more likely to really enjoy it. For me, I guess, as much as I liked it, I couldn't help but feel like, it doesn't feel like what real characters are doing would do, I guess. And, that's not a problem. There's so many shows like that. Like I just mentioned before mentioned, How Not to Summon a Demon Lord, I think you would be hard-pressed to believe, this is the way actual entities would behave. It's just kind of doing its own thing, but it kind of gives you other things to be entertained by. And I guess I noticed it a little more negatively in the studio apartment, just because I guess it's a strong feature, and it's just like there's a bit of this that's like, it would be nice if this is the way these kind of things went, but I don't know. If it feels a little more artificial, and like it depends on that artificiality. Not that it's necessarily bad, but I would say that this episode, to somebody who's maybe not super into the genre per se, like I mean myself, as I myself am not super into that genre, it's a little. I'm more curious to see what other funny and interesting things he'll do, but it's okay. Train to the End of the World, episode 4. See, this episode, I felt a little bit of that, what I was mentioning about episode 2 worrying me again. A little bit. Is this a show where they just like to have the characters kind of babbling? Like, they didn't do it a whole lot, but just enough where it's like, yeah, I guess it's supposed to be something they do. Okay, fine. And I think the show remains good as long as it doesn't rest on that and rests on everything else it's building. And it's definitely done some interesting things so far. I don't know what to mention because it's weird, and there's certain things where it's like, yeah, that definitely looks like a hint as to what they're planning to do, and oh look, they did eventually do that. Maybe you know exactly what I mean. I don't think it's not obvious, but maybe it is. I don't know. Oh well. God's Games We Play, episode 4. An entertaining enough thing. Just kind of... yeah. You know, it just kind of is, but, you know, it's kind of maybe not something that will wow people that are used to this stuff, but it's just kind of... when it's on, it's just fine. I think it stays kind of fresh. Ooh, Kaiju number 8, episode 3. I still hate that blonde-haired bitch. I don't really care. She's a fucking genius. She can't coexist with people around her. I want her fucking gone. Episode was, I think, a little on the weaker side because, you know, there's elements of the show that are already, you know, kind of making fun of our main characters. Oh, you know, he was hoping he could become a badass, but he's, you know, becoming an old man and stuff. It's like, you know, it's fine. It just feels like this episode maybe goes a little too far in that direction. Without us being really sure if there's real payoff to, I guess, wade through it, so to speak. And it's a really... I think it's a little more of a negative way to put it than it actually felt. But it was definitely something that kind of lingered. So I'd say this was kind of a weak third episode. If there's only what happened in the third episode was what we were judging, it'd probably be only, okay. But episodes 1 and 2 kind of established that this show has a lot of really good ideas and potentials behind it. So I'm definitely curious to see more. Newgate, episode 3. I guess it continues to be interesting enough. I'm surprised certain things maybe have or haven't happened. It's kind of getting closer to showing those things happen, and I definitely want to see them happen. But I guess, you know, this is episode 3. If I were to make a guess on this, I'd say, and talk about how it measures up. There's one huge problem, end of episode 3, and that's, it's hard to feel a forward direction for this show. Like, I guess we have an immediate goal, but it doesn't feel like the kind of goal that's like, okay, now we're done with this show and we are interested in, you know, it doesn't really feel like it's given a good thing. So I guess you kind of enjoy it in the moment. And compared to some other things, I think it's a little more watchable than that. Like, I feel like it's more watchable than that one where the main character's name was Earth-kun and he was beloved by the fairies and stuff like that. That one, you know, was a nice show, but also kind of had its problems in terms of, you know, you're supposed to watch an episode at a time, but I feel like Newgate feels better than that. I'm not sure if that's really setting a high bar or not. Maybe an okay bar. The other series was okay. I guess we'll have to see. Just because there's still some important beginning of show cards it hasn't played yet. Yeah, fine. Let me see. As a reincarnated Aristocat, I'll use my appraisal skills. Episode 4. Nice enough. I guess I don't entirely feel like the emotions that it had people do were necessarily right, but, you know, not necessarily bad either. It just sort of, yeah, neat enough stuff, I guess. And I guess that's the show. It's neat. I'm not sure if if it's always awesome. I guess it really depends on how you feel about the individual character stories it's doing. And, in that regard, this one is a little bit on the weaker side, I would say. But the rest are pretty good, I guess. The other two have been pretty good. Jobless Reincarnation, Season 2, Episode 16. So the thing I was worried about this episode was if the blonde sister... Yeah, I was just worried about her. Because, the last we saw of her, I don't think it left us in a very good mood. I think I saw some people in discussions claiming whether or not... for some reason that they thought that Rudius looked particularly bad. It's just like... Paul is a piece of shit. I mean, Jesus fucking Christ. Maybe he does have high expectations for Rudius, but at the same time, could he not just be relieved that his son was still alive? And he threw the first punch. He was basically bullying. He tried to, he basically tried to pick a fight with somebody that was, that somebody couldn't take on. So when his sister kind of called him the bully, it's like, fuck you, bitch. I know your dad's the only one you have, but your dad's the one in the wrong here. And I'm not sure if the show is kind of acknowledging that maybe she's in a weird place because she kind of knows that or not. Red-haired half-sister is pretty fucking awesome, though. But, I don't think these episodes are really supposed to be about her. She's, I think, supposed to be a kind of nice balance to some of the stuff. But otherwise, the show right here in Season 2 really has gotten pretty calmed down to mostly... It's almost more slice of life-ish than kind of some of the other stuff that I guess Jobless Reincarnation has been. But it's still neat. I still want to see what these characters are doing, what they're about to do and finish. Oh, good stuff. Tsukimichi, Season 2, Episode 17. I was wondering if this was going to be an awesome episode, and I'd say it was a pretty okay episode. If I were to say what felt off about it, it felt like maybe there was a potential crisis. Our main characters, of course, have good reason to not be really, I guess, pressed to do anything about it. Just, be careful about it. But, as fine as that is, it does feel like maybe the events that happened in this episode felt slower. I don't think they were slower than they needed to be, given the material they wanted to cover, apparently. But it felt like, I was hoping that something intriguing would happen this episode. I guess we'll have to see if the next episode does it. This one has more setup than I would have thought. Oh well. I guess, that could just be that Season 1 just kind of covered the most material or something like that. While Season 2, the material in the show is still very interesting, but at the same time, maybe not as fist-pumping, I guess. I was reincarnated as the 7th Prince, Episode 5. Continuation of the previous episode and a finalizing of it, and overall, pretty entertaining. This sort of stuff we would have wanted to see in the previous episode, but they're spacing stuff out a bit. So if Episode 1 gave us good stuff, Episode 3 gave us good stuff, Episode 5 gave us, they may be setting themselves up so that the stuff about this show that's really enjoyable just keeps happening every other episode. And I think it mostly is entertaining because our main character kind of gets to show that crazy side. And they're really quite enjoyable when they do it, and the show has done a good job so far of making that not boring. So, good job. Remonster, Episode 5. So, maybe Episode 3 ending with, oh yes, and he's going to have sex with all these people and all these people and stuff. Well, they keep introducing it in episodes, I think. So, maybe that's just the reality of the show. I guess this one was another stuff building up, and maybe it was definitely nice because it definitely has more engagement with more sentient I guess. And so, yeah, I guess it's enjoyable enough. It's definitely not the nice thing I like to fire up on Monday because, I can be putting away groceries, and because it's got a dub, I can kind of watch it in the background. And, content-wise, it's kind of nice. Maybe not the most spectacular per se, but, very nice. I like watching it, and curious to see where it's going to go. But, it kind of doesn't have anything other than, this show's going in that direction. What's in that direction? I don't know. It's a bit village building in the way. Which, of course, makes it really similar to Reincarnated as a Slime. At a minimum, it doesn't feel like it's got the same personality. Definitely its own personality, but, just notes. Let's see. Spice and Wolf, Merchant Meets the Wise Wolf, Episode 5. I think this is probably the same stuff that was in the first version of the show. But it's definitely very pleasant. It's actually the last thing I watched, so I have these in whatever order I have them in my list. Not necessarily in the order I watch them. Excuse me. And for this one, I tend to end my Monday evenings with it just because it's just kind of a pleasant watch. There's that niceness of, okay, yeah, they're talking about economic, merchant-y sort of stuff. Okay, cool. And then there's, Holo's banter, which is not really banter, but just the way she talks and presents herself and interacts, and it's like, she's nice. Definitely very nice to watch her. And I definitely felt that in episode 5. It had good Holo interaction stuff to it. Some nice, complex stuff that you'll watch and, makes you think, I feel like we are talking to a potentially older entity. An entity that defies our understanding as human lifespan sort of stuff. Good stuff. And then, last but not least, we have Chillin' in Another World with Level 2 Super Cheat Powers, Episode 4. Again, another show where I guess we don't know where the final destination is really aiming to be. And Episode 3 was kind of whimsical, and I don't think I mentioned this last week, but it's definitely really weird that the ending credits is only those 4 girls, like this is their anime or something like that. Now I'm trying to remember what the opening is like. But putting that all aside, I think our main character's stance and interaction is pretty neat. The implications of that on the other world are kind of neat. I'm still not sure what to think about the 4 night ladies. They're okay. They just sort of feel like they were very conveniently placed there, and they conveniently stay there. That thing I say about plenty of anime having personalities that you're like, is this the way a person would really act? I'm not quite sure. I find this one to be less believable than In Another World with My Smartphone. And that one I wouldn't even call necessarily completely realistic. There's little elements of it that are just like, yeah, maybe. Enough that I find that one to be entertaining in what it does. This one, I'm entertained. I'm not sure if I'll be entertained enough to come through and rewatch stuff again. But I don't know. Lots of blabbery thoughts. Do I have any other things to think about? Kind of going back through portions of How Not to Summon a Demon Lord. Sorry, I was so blanking on the name. And, it does have its entertaining things about it. But I have to admit, there are definitely other shows more notable. So, for example, I was at my parents' place. So, I haven't talked about my Friday friend because he's out of town. And I went and saw my family on Friday. And one of the things I did was just I kind of want to show them, hey, here's some anime stuff. They don't have Crunchyroll, so they could only watch the free stuff. But I was able to show them the first 3 episodes of Hell's Paradise. Because, let's face it, that was a really great beginning. And it was free and available, and they could watch it right then and there. The only problem with it is that after that, I think it was still pretty good. But the problem is we need an ending to the series to kind of feel if that good is great or just good or okay or something like that. Because the first 3 episodes, I think one of the reasons they work really well is that it feels like there's good theming that it's playing with. I don't remember episodes 4 to 12 and if they continue that. I don't remember them feeling like they were doing that, but it kind of could be. But I would definitely need to see whatever they're going to do to finish that series. So I hope they get back to it and finish it. I hope there was actually an ending to it and it wasn't just a thing. You know what else was spectacular? Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. You know, there's some scenes from that I can watch and it's still emotionally impactful in multiple ways. Some of them are just like somber, some of them just like, holy fucking shit. Yeah, this is the reason that we all knew this show was going to be better than the first one. You know, some people I think like the first version of it more, and, you know, kudos to them. But for everybody else that really liked it, I'm pretty sure there's some episodes in there where you're like, oh yeah. Once I saw that, I was sold. Yeah, good show. You know, I usually do rewatch bits and pieces of a bunch of random stuff, and I just don't talk about it here. Like, you know, I've been rewatching some scenes from The Land Before Time, the first movie, because, you know, the movie has some touching music, touching moments, and yeah. It also helped that I think Nostalgia Critic reviewed it in the past week, and, you know, he had some really interesting things to say, and I think people in his comments had some interesting things to say. It was all quite nice. But video game wise, I mean, I tried to play some Dead by Daylight over the weekend. I mean, I successfully did. I played like 6 matches, I think. You know, just go through my dailies and then play a couple of extra killers because I just find them fun in order to, you know, get to the end of the first page of the tome, which is not much. Literally, I was able to do it in 6 killer matches. Low tier. Even if my MMR degraded, it would have degraded up towards starting, because you don't start at 0. I just normally live at 0 because I don't like killing survivors if I don't have to. And I try to choose things that make it where I don't have to. Which reminds me, I do have one daily where I have to kill someone as Skull Merchant. I don't mind playing as Skull Merchant, but I don't want to kill somebody. So I'll probably have to recycle that one. I just recycled a different one, and yeah, it probably doesn't really matter. I guess I should just be on top of the recycling until I play to go through all the killer challenges again. Because these days, I'm just tired. And so if I'm tired and I'm playing as killer and I mess up, it's fine. If I'm playing as survivor and I'm letting my team down, it's like I probably shouldn't be playing. But as killer, I think people appreciate a killer that they can juke, someone who doesn't mess with the FOV, and so I have the default FOV, so they can still FOV tech me and good stuff like that. But I digress. I just really haven't been video gaming other than the occasional Lethal Company with friends. Huh. Did have dreams, though, about Monster Hunter Rise and kind of Final Fantasy VII. Kind of. I don't know how to explain that one, so I'll just go ahead and wrap things up here. Y'all, have a nice week.